This sounds really funny to say. Hi,
Hello, everybody.
that's Kevin O'Brien. I'm Terry Tazioli. I'm going to read you a few notes about Kevin O'Brien.
Okay.
Just so you know, you grew up in Chicago.
Yes.
I was a baby. He's never missed, you said this in your bio or something, you've never missed a broadcast of Psycho or North by Northwest. Obviously, as far as I'm concerned, they offer some kind of inspiration for your work. My personal favorites are Sound of Music, Last You Come Home, and Song of Bird.
It's going to be a good mix then.
It is. And we could go on and on, like you and Ann Margaret had the same music teacher. Your latest thriller is They Won't Be Hurt, which opens on, there it is, right here, can you see this? Which opens on Lopez Island, I'm never going there again. And
it opens the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
that's today.
It's today. It opens today.
Okay, if you're on Lopez
Sorry.
Island, there are 4 dead people in the house. So, is it 4? There are more.
More.
It's a family,
It's like
that's
7.
right. There's 7, yeah. That's not nice.
No.
But the good stuff, that's good stuff too. Your books have sold all over the planet, at least 14 languages that I read about so far. The New York Times people love you,
Thank you.
and we get to talk.
Yes.
My first question, 20 roughly, 20 books in 20 years, give or take.
Just about.
Do you have a life?
No, none whatsoever.
Talk about your life.
There's always a deadline. Every year there's this like 2 or 3 months where I feel like it's finals week, and I and I go through this whole thing of I hate my life. It's so hard, and then I think back to my old job with the railroads and where I was, on call for derailments and things like that. And I'm like, it's a piece of cake, and I love the people I'm working with. I get to do things like this, so I got it made. It's just for 2 or 3 bad months that I have every year. When this damn book is due, and by the time I turn it in, it's known as that damn book. It's not, it's that damn book.
You need a title like that one of these days.
That's a
Maybe
great-
the next book or the one after.
Yes.
Actually, you can't because this is, as you say, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. You went through, remember when we were kids, they called it HE double toothpicks? You went through hell and getting this thing out of your system. Why is it like going through hell at the end of a book?
Like I say, it's almost like finals week. You just feel like you get tired of the material. You kind of lose track of what you envisioned first, and you make all these compromises along the way as you're writing because you're on a deadline. And I always think of these people who want to get published and how great it is, that I am, how lucky I am that I got published. But one of the problems, it's so hard that you have a deadline, and so you can't take your time with every little sentence. And I like envy people like Gillian Flynn who can be wordsmiths too, and I will read her books and be like in awe of her because she just articulates things so well, and I feel like I'm just throwing it like Jackson Pollock of writing, just throwing it on the canvas and seeing what happens. But I do a lot of rewriting. So in fact, I'm probably going to start rewriting the opus I just turned in. The 449 pages I just turned in, it will be rewritten probably starting next week. So I get about a week off.
Are you able to tell us the title of this?
The new book is called The Betrayed Wife.
Okay.
I know.
And where was she betrayed? In the
She's
Northwest?
betrayed all over the place. She's actually, her husband's a little bit of a rover. I based the husband a little bit on John F. Kennedy, where he compartmentalizes. He's a good dad, he's a good husband, in limited ways, but a good provider and all that. But he compartmentalizes and he doesn't look upon the extramarital affairs he has as anything that's wrong, or if a woman's interested in him, he's gonna be all over that, So, and he happens to be very good looking and kind of, like I say, just it's his one fault is he is
Go ahead and say it, we're on.
I was going to say, I just keep thinking of a movie line I can't repeat in this company. It's too blue.
Okay. You
He's
can tell
generous
me-
with certain
you can tell
body
me
parts.
after we're done.
Yes,
and then
yes,
just
I'll tell you.
Let people know. On my own pages.
And it's already, this is what kills me about when you do a book a year, is it's already on Amazon. So there's already people ordering it, which thrills me, to no end that people are already, buying it. But it's just been turned in, so it's still working on it.
But it also means there's probably a check in the mail at some point.
Hopefully,
Right.
that's what we like.
That's what we
Yeah,
very much
it's
like.
all about that.
Well, I would also say, Kevin, that murder is what it's all about in
Yeah.
bodies.
Yes, body count.
But yes,
Yeah.
how many people have you bumped off in all these
Oh,
20 books?
I have no idea. I can tell you I killed, in this book, there's only been a few killed in this book, like about 4 or 5.
Which one, the new one, the one that's
The
not
new
out
one,
yet?
the one that's not out yet.
Okay.
This one has numerous. Well, it starts out with this murder, and I think 7 people are killed right away in the first. And then by chapter 2, we dispatched 7 people. So, and some of them were kids. So
They were,
yeah,
yeah, that's hard.
that is hard. But you know what? You can't. You can kill a kid, and no one complains. But if you kill a dog, watch out. Yeah, you'll be.
I can't remember, have you killed off any dogs?
Oh God, no! I wouldn't dare kill a dog or a cat. I've had a cat or 2 die, and got
That's tough.
yeah,
It's always tough.
yeah, and it's not like the good guy's killing the cat. It's always somebody evil doing it. So
What's the fascination with thrillers and murder? And I'm serious about that genre. What about that got you into it and keeps you going?
it's a great question because I had one of these events, and there was a panel of thriller authors up there, and somebody asked us what was the favorite way we killed somebody. And we were all like a bunch of ghouls up there talking about, well, then I did this and I did that, and afterwards, some really sweet woman came up to me and was like, why do you like to do that? So that felt like the biggest creep. I was like, oh my God. But I think what it is I think people like to be scared. I think they like the thrill of experiencing some danger while it's still a very safe thing, while they're in a safe place, to experience that danger and come out of it feeling more exhilarated and more alive. And the other thing that kind of occurs to me when I'm writing my thrillers is justice is usually served, and it doesn't always happen in real life that way. You can kind of play God, and you can say, okay, here's the bad guy. And most of my bad guys in my thrillers are not after money or anything like that. It's like they have a mission of some weird proportion to like achieve some sort of weird goal, and to see that blow up in their face is so fun. Just to see justice served that way is so rewarding. And in fact, the one book I got the most criticized about was called No One Needs to Know, which I kind of liked, but there was a hitman in it, and the hitman is not killed at the end. The hitman survives and goes on to hit another day. And I grappled with it. I wasn't sure if that person should get their comeuppance or not, because you see them kill a few people, and pretty mercilessly too. But what I envisioned was that the person who actually hired the hitman was the more guilty party. And I was sort of basing it, I don't know if you ever saw the movie 3 Days of the Condor.
Oh, yeah.
And
One of my favorites.
Isn't it great?
It's a great movie.
Yes, and Max von Sydow in that was the hitman, and he walks away. And I thought, I think I can afford to do that because they did this so well in 3 Days of the Condor. It didn't matter that he was the hitman. He was just a vessel, for somebody else. And so that person got their comeuppance, and that's what I did. But I don't think people really were that thrilled with that particular book because
Because of that.
I don't know, who knows?
That's okay, 1 out of 20 ain't bad.
Yeah.
So I have another
Okay.
question for you. There are, well, maybe not so much in the murder thriller arena, but it does happen, but a lot in mystery and all of those detective stories. There are a lot of people have a protagonist they carry with them from book to book to book to book. You didn't do that. Was that a choice of yours?
Yes.
Why?
Well, because, I think you need an expert, to carry it from book to book. And I'm not, the only thing I may be an expert at is railroads. And even then, I was like not that interested in my job on the railroads. And so usually you need like a forensics expert, a doctor, some kind of lawyer, somebody who is got a career that's invested in solving crimes or in medical issues or something. So what I basically have is Miss Marple showing up, and it's like people will say about Miss Marple, who would want to live near her, because they're all dropping like flies, around her. So usually I have a school teacher. And in this case, she's a housewife who's helping run a winery. So it differs in each case. And I actually like coming up with new characters and new plot lines and new story ideas. The new book that I just finished is the first of maybe 3 books that are sort of tied in, and it's the first time I'm doing it. I'm not sure if I like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I feel challenged by it because I don't like the open end. I like to wrap things up in a nice little package and deliver it to the reader. And when I finished this last Friday, I was like, oh my God, I've got to kind of leave it open. And so I was trying to give it, my editor and I were going back and forth, and I think he wanted sort of like a dynasty ending, where somebody shows up at the end and it's like, dun, 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 and it's like, I thought they were dead, or something, one of those.
Right. Oh, what was it? Was Dallas.
It was Dallas, yes.
I was just taking a long shower, or whatever he was doing.
Yes, it was all a dream. The Wizard of Oz. So I was resisting that, and I was trying to go for more of a Silence of the Lambs type of ending, where you have things are resolved, but you have something open-ended a little bit. So we'll see. Well, he's reading it right now. I might be with a dun dun dun. So
or just finish him off in the first chapter of the next book.
Yeah.
And then start something completely different.
It's like
Yes,
Matt Damon's
did you-
wife in The Second Born Identity. And she was so great in the first, and she was such a great part of it. And then it's like, goodbye, Frankie, whatever her name is, Jenkins, whatever his last name is, I don't know. But she was so great. She was great in Run Lola Run, and she was also in Born Identity. And
We haven't told people yet, but this is also a film program.
yes, it's a film
We're
program.
going to give you
too.
recommendations on it. You've already heard several.
I always think of that, and I always think of when they do continuing series, like Robert Dugoni was told, after he did one book, he was told, well, you're killing off the wife, aren't you? And he was like, why? I like the wife. Like, but he's got to be single. You've got to have a single guy taking care of all this so that he can have different love interests all along. So it's like James Bond. You don't see Pussy Galore come back. They look like they were, they look like they were set for life.
They're
Didn't they? And they're like, goodbye.
Yeah. Well, one guy, as I recall, another Northwest author, Elizabeth George,
I love
bumped off her
George.
life. And boy, did she get blowback for it.
Yeah.
Was it Elizabeth? I can't remember the name of the book.
I forget which one too.
Well, anyway, it was a delightful. No, it wasn't. It was a tough book to read.
Was it?
And I was even ticked off at her for. That's not a nice thing to do. I like this person. Is that a danger?
That is a danger, and it's very hard for authors once in a while to cut short a life of some character that they really like. I had that in one of that books. I think it was You'll Miss Me When I'm Gone. I had the main character was going to a psychiatrist, and I loved her, and she was really good for this kid. And
So did I.
Oh, did you read that?
Yes.
Oh, I hated killing her. But she was so great, and you kind of felt like she was gonna go someplace. Thank you for reading that, by the way.
You're welcome.
Are you mad still about it? I got my money back. Thanks a lot.
A couple things, Kevin. A lot of the main characters, if you will, in your books are women.
Yes.
And curious, and I mean this sincerely, why, and is it hard for a guy to write a woman's role, a man to write a woman's role, or even reverse?
Yeah, I think it is, but luckily I grew up with 4 sisters, and through most of my books, she hasn't had a chance, she's been globe-trotting, but I had a very good friend that I started writing with back in the 80s, and she always would read every book I wrote before I turned it in, and she is very critical of wimpy women and insincere women. So, you know, I'd always hear back from her. I was like, oh, she drove me crazy, and she was very blunt too. She's like, she drove me crazy here. This character, you know, I hated this person though. So I would get good feedback, and I think writing from a woman's angle, it makes it much more interesting. It sounds very sexist. If the woman is in trouble rather than a guy is in trouble. If the woman is in danger, you know, you think a guy is going to be able to protect himself, but a woman is going to be a little bit more vulnerable just naturally. It's like Clarice Starling in Silence of the Lambs. You know, I think that wouldn't have worked if it was a guy. It just wouldn't have had the same, you know, effect if it wasn't for, you know, being Clarice. And I think in most of my cases, most of my heroines have kids, and if your heroine has a kid that they're worried about, then the audience can double worry, you know, about for the kid and her, instead of her just worrying about herself. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one reason I do write from that point of view sometimes. And usually it's usually a teenager too in almost all my books, and I don't know why. Maybe it's I relate to teens better. But teens back in the 70s, that's the trouble. Is that I'll submit my stuff to my writers group, and Garth Stein, who's in my writers group, will read, and he's got 3 teenage boys, so he's like, Kevin, no, they don't use Facebook anymore. I'm like, what? No, I know. He's like, no, a kid wouldn't do that. No, I had something about, oh, we'll catch it on rerun. He said, it's called on demand, Kevin. That's what you do. It's on demand. It's like, so he helps me with all the technical stuff and, you know, like just school stuff. Like I had something about, in the new book that I just finished, I had something about marijuana, and you know it's legal now, and you know some of the kids in school have tried it. He's like, all of the kids have tried it. That's stupid. I was like, well, my teen hero hasn't tried it yet, and he's like, okay, your teen hero can just be this aberration. Yeah.
No kidding. We'll stop right there with that one. Let's talk about ideas, and I'm just curious because. Where do you come up with this stuff? and is it the story? You know, this is like a kind of, it's not an age-old argument, but there's this discussion about the chicken and the egg. Is it the character, is it the story? Is it the character, is it the story? Or is it everything or nothing?
I usually start with the idea, and it's a storyline idea. And from there, I try and think of a character who would propel that story further, and make it more interesting. And like I say, for example, it's like, do I want a hero or a heroine for this? Do I want a woman for my main character? Or would it be propelled better if it was a man? And so I asked myself all those questions. And you know, sometimes it changes midway between my conception of the storyline. And I'll be like, no, it's going to work much better if I take a woman and put her in this role. Mm-hmm. So a few of my books have started out where the heroine was actually a guy at the beginning, and I'm like, it's going to work much better if it's a woman. So it's usually the plot comes first, and then I'll start creating this character who will have challenges in a background that is going to make it really interesting. You know, I think that's one reason why I don't write thrillers that have like forensic experts, because they seem so like safe for themselves. You know, it's like, yes, I'm in my little cozy niche, and I know exactly what I'm doing. And I'd rather root for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, an amateur who has to rise to the occasion, than be with, you know, Mr. Smug lawyer who knows everything. You know, it's like, you know, it's always when it's the struggle that I think is always neat. I think, I don't know.
Well, if that's the case, then what kind of research do you do? Is it some research that could encompass all of what you write over the years in those books? Or is it research specific to a book? Or is it kind of a I'm curious.
It's a combo platter. Yeah, usually I'll do some research for the specific book, especially if I have I had one thing that was set in a horse equestrian place, and I didn't know a damn thing about horses, so I had to read up on it, and there is a danger of doing too much research because you have to show off. It's like, I know this stuff now. Now I'm going to go and spend 5 pages describing
The horse.
The horse, yes, and the horse's background.
The elephant.
Yeah. and so you get into this sort of where you have to show off. You can't help yourself. You have to let everybody know that you know what you're talking about. And so sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I had a character who had ALS, and in one of my books it was The Next to Die. And I didn't know much about it except from watching Pride of the Yankees, talk about our movie references. And so I was like, okay, I know it from Lou Gehrig, and that was about it. So I read a few books on it, and it was very helpful to me. And some of the letters I got from people were just so wonderful, very moving things from people who were survivors of ALS, of people who had ALS. So, sometimes it really pays off. Other times you do all this research and it's like, it doesn't work. So it's amazing. Sometimes that's the great thing about the internet is it's right there. You don't have to go to the library and read everything, although that's the best place to do it. But you don't have to go through all the motions that you used to. I remember trying to get inspired for a funeral scene for a cop. And so all I did was Google funeral cop, and I was like, oh, bagpipes, yeah. And you remember, you think of all the things that are there that you wouldn't really envision right away,
So people, because so many, if not all of your stories are set somewhere around here, around
Yes.
Seattle and Northwest, if people see you at an event, they should split.
Split, get out of
Because they
here.
could be dead. soon.
Yes.
Okay.
And don't mess with me. Don't give me a bad review, because I'll name somebody after you and kill them. Don't.
Well, that leads me to another arena that you've been involved in, I think lately, maybe longer. You and David Williams, another
Yes.
Seattle writer.
David
David's
Williams.
a geologist, a great guy, fascinating work. The two of you have done Where to Commit, and I don't think my word is perfect, but Where to Commit Murder in Seattle.
Yes.
I'm not going to live here anymore. You've already driven me off Lopez Island. Now you've ruined my city. How did you come up with that idea?
Oh, I don't.
Wait, I'm sorry. First, tell folks what it is, what you do together.
So David
and then where it came
Williams
from.
and David does Seattle walks, and he's done a lot of different books about Seattle, the history of Seattle, and I love Seattle walks. If you check it out, it's a great Christmas gift too. We'll plug for David Bees.
High speed.
And you can get it here at University Books.
Right? Well, it's right over here on the
really
table.
is. Did we mention my book enough?
Yeah.
But David and I think I got the idea, if I do say so myself, and I said, you're so good at, I went to one of his little talks, It had like 1,000 people. It was at the library. It was just packed. And because I'm like trying to, we got close to 1,000 here.
Yes, we do. Hold it down, everybody.
I know, calm down. And anyway, I was just latching onto his star, and so I went up to him and said, I killed several people in Seattle, in different areas in Seattle, and I think it'd be kind of cool to have go on the road for, at least some Seattle bookstores and talk about, the places I've killed people, and then you could describe, the history of these places. So, one was the Fremont Troll. I had an abduction happen at like midnight at the Fremont Troll. And so he talked all about the history of the Fremont Troll. And I've killed so many people in Volunteer Park. And so he has, okay, in fact, I got a scene in the water tower in my new one that I just finished. And, but I've killed somebody at in the Lakeview Cemetery, where I volunteer.
But that's all, there are already dead people
There
there.
are dead people there already. There's another cemetery there, David's gonna kill me, it's the Veterans of Foreign Wars, which is right behind Lakeview Cemetery, the hidden cemetery. No one knows about it, but you can walk right through it. It's right in that Roanoke area too. So, and Interlaken, that's a great place to have dead bodies found. So, but he'll talk about the history of the place that I have, dispatched to different people, and he'll recommend places for me. So he's obsessed with the spot that's
Where?
There's a couple of great
Tell me
spots.
this, if it's not in the South End, I feel much
You're
safer.
gonna be fine. There's one in West Seattle.
Oh, no.
Yes.
That's-
Where there's an underground bunker that used to be.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
what is the place called? Do you know what
I
it
don't
is?
remember the name of it.
Yeah, but it's the underground bunker in West Seattle that was used during World War II.
Yeah.
And then they, I think in the 50s or something, they did something there. They did some experiments with, I don't know, with animals on something. That sounds really nefarious, doesn't it? But he obsessed with that, not obsessed, it was crazy, but there's also a spot under the freeway near Green Lake that used to be where people would get their driver's license, and now it's just this empty shell of a place. And I think for a while there it was an evacuation center for, during 1962, that time. And that's a fun place. I keep thinking of Reservoir Dogs, that, this is where you could torture somebody and keep them abducted, abduct somebody, keep them, under your thumb for a while.
And we'll wrap this up in a second and
Okay.
see if there are more questions, but do you foresee a time when, I'm done with this, or I want to change, or I want to write in a different genre? Things like that?
I'm starting to feel it a little bit now after 20 books. I'm starting to, want to try something different, but, the agents and editors don't want you to. It's like, what I call the John Grisham syndrome. Didn't he wrote something that was not a legal thriller. And, it did, like, an okay business, but it wasn't one of his huge stellar hits. And ever since then, agents are like, don't do that. But sometimes it works. Robert Tazioli had just his new book is not a thriller, and
That's right,
it's
that's right.
been really well received. So you don't know. You can't,
I think that's the first time, as I recall, that I met you.
Yes.
We were in a conversation with Robert Tazioli and also Mike Lawson.
Mr. Mike Lawson.
And then I was just sitting there thinking, great, a triple threat here. Somebody in this room is gonna die before we get out of here tonight.
And it wasn't you.
It wasn't me,
I know.
and it better not.
No, you're good. You don't
I
kill
just-
the golden goose.
Well, this one I really enjoyed.
Oh, did you like it?
Should we
Thank
hold
you.
it up again?
Oh, let's do it.
They Won't Be Hurt. In case you missed it the first 5 times, I did like this. I'm nothing else if not helpful to
I like
various
that.
authors.
I like that.
Are there questions? Anybody? You guys have questions?
Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Bueller?
Yeah.
How much would I need to pay you to be killed in one of your books?
Nothing. Although, I would hate to kill you off. Somebody actually asked me to do that, and he was a very nice guy, and he wanted to get killed. And when I killed him, I felt horrible because he's just a delivery guy, and he comes and shows up at the wrong time, and he gets an ice pick in his ear. And of course, as I'm describing his body like racking and spazzing out with, as he's dying, I kept thinking, my friend Dan had asked for this, and now,
He's getting it.
and now he's getting it, and you never know, he might have asked for it under, I kept checking with him, but, you never know, he might read it and go, God, now he's disturbed by it, and I'm gonna get sued or something.
No, I know Dan, and I was so jealous.
You would like my Victoria? I will do it. I will do it, man. Okay. There's going to be a Craig
Well,
Field out for my
You
next
brought
book.
meaning to
Thank
it.
you for coming today. We've
Yes.
just lost one of our customers here.
No, I'm killing him off. He's
Yeah,
gonna...
watch what I mean.
Well, that's what you mean.
That's
Okay.
what I mean.
If buy your book, buy my book first. Before.
I'm not going to volunteer. I have one last question for you.
Yes.
What is the most gruesome way you have murdered one of your
Jeez.
characters?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say this is sort of a double question because it answers Craig's question too. My sister worked with a woman named Cindy who she couldn't stand and was totally obnoxious. Dun, 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 dun. And so I said, well, I'll kill her off for you. So I had Cindy be so obnoxious and you just hated her guts, and she did every little thing. She butted in front of somebody in line in Starbucks. She stole her neighbor's newspaper. She shoplifted at the QFC, and then she goes to her apartment, does one more nasty little thing that you want to just slug her, and she goes up to her apartment, which is like on the 11th floor of some high rise on Capitol Hill, and somebody's there and he beats the crap out of her and then throws her out a window and she lands on somebody's BMW. So I was like, I told my sister, I took care of Cindy for you.
Did she open the roof or was it a convertible?
Oh, I did, I should have been a convertible because that would extra the ripping through the,
There's no time.
yeah, there's
There's
still
no time.
that.
And I have a very low idea fee.
Okay, I like
I'll
that.
give you the invoice afterwards. Thank you.
Oh.
It's great to be with you. It's great to.
It's so great to
The
be
book,
here, Terry.
again,
Thank
is
you.
They Won't Be Hurt. That's this year's.
That's this year's.
2018 and 2019 comes,
The Betrayed Wife.
and you got to come back here so we can do more.
Oh, I hope so.
Okay.
Thank
Ah.
you.
And by the way, yes, we're live on Facebook with this conversation, but it will also be up on our YouTube channel soon, where you can watch this all over again, tell your friends, your neighbors, anybody you think might not make it through next year with Heaven in the Same City, and buy the book. Thanks a
Or I'll
lot.
kill you.
Yeah. Thank you.